Our guest has been waiting very, very patiently for us to do our housekeeping, so I'm going to throw out a microphone to George. And while we're waiting for him to accept some speaking duties, I'll just give a shout out to you all again. Thank you very much for coming in here tonight. Illumixis, Hash Brown, Jay, Fendel, B, Iteration, Innovative down there. Thank you very much for popping in. Of course, we appreciate each and every one of you. Means a lot to us when you come into these spaces and take your own time to come and hang out with us. I say it every week, and I'll say it a million times. It means the absolute world to us. Thank you very much. By the way, Innovative, your package is going to go out this week, so you should be able to see your WX8BK swag package in the mail very, very soon. Get that out to you. Got a T-shirt coming your way and some buttons and some stickers. So you'll be seeing that in your mail very, very, very soon, for sure. I sent an invite down to George. Thanks for coming back, folks, to come and hang out with us tonight. Illumixis and Hash Brown were our two winners of our DynaVap M7s. I guess it was about over a month ago. It was in April when we gave those away. Hash Brown, and I'd like to say that DynaVap took very, very good care of our winners, and I appreciate that very much. Hash Brown had never experienced a DynaVap before, and he's just loving it. He even brought it with him to Seattle, as a matter of fact. So that's totally dope. Oh, here he is.
To remind you, either approve it, but account for it.
Awesome. Hello.
There. Hello. How you doing, sir?
Just doing an audio check. Make sure that the sound waves are percolating through properly.
Hell yeah, they are. Sound silky smooth. Silky smooth.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming to join us tonight. We had a little bit of a scheduling problem the first time you were supposed to be on, but that's all good. We're very, very happy to have you in here tonight, and thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had one of those, don't want to come across like an excuse, but it was kind of like an ADD moment.
It's all right. No worries. No worries at all. We managed to hold down the fort. I mean, as you heard, for the last 20 minutes I can talk, so we still had it.
It's a useful skill.
Yeah, right? It is. It either keeps them here or it chases them out, one of the two. So thank you very much for coming. And I do want to mention again, thank you very much for in April you guys gave us a couple DynaVaps to give away, and we do appreciate that very much. That was meant a huge bunch to us.
Oh, it's fun stuff, isn't it? Just sharing the click, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's all about that click. Okay, before we're going to get into it. If you don't mind, would you mind giving everybody would you give us a little bit of an introduction as to who you are?
Sure. My name is George Breiwa, and I think one way you could describe me is I'm one of the artists behind the products that DynaVap manufactures.
I shut my mic off. I was talking. Awesome. Great. There we go. See, folks, an artist. We'll call him an artist. I like that. I like that a lot. So the reason
I hope that's not inappropriate. I mean, I look at the products that we make, and I like to refer to them, not even really jokingly, as functional jewelry. And I mean, if jewelry is an art, I mean, what is it?
Right. 100%. 100%. Like, and it's very true, because they're not just like a straight piece of metal.
They're all different styles and kind of intricacies and yeah, they're definitely works of art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. So I guess we'll just kind of start at the beginning, so what inspired you to come up with such a product?
Well, there's a couple things that came into play, right? First off, I discovered when I was in my early 20s that a little bit of cannabis here and there is actually kind of a nice augmentation to life in general. Not all the time, but there's moments where it seemed to really help facilitate more of the mindset that I was seeking. Mm-hmm. But the smoke and I didn't really agree very well with each other. It was kind of harsh, kind of burned, and I found myself perpetually kind of disappointed, when I'd smell someone else, would open up the stash jar, open up, oh, it smells great. Or the first person would take a puff and you get a little smell of the smoke. It still smells pretty good. But then I'd take a taste and it's like, doggone it, this does not taste like it smells. I want something that tastes like it smells because I like the way it smells, but I don't like the way it tastes. And I don't like the harshness on my throat and my lungs either. And on top of that, is a person that has put a little bit of effort into understanding science, material science, chemicals, etc. I didn't really like the idea of ingesting all kinds of incomplete combustion byproducts because there's really not a lot in there that's good for you. So it prompted the quest, the journey, the exploration into, well, how do we have what we're looking for without the things that we're not? And the journey took an interesting twist when my neighbor picked up a vaporizer made by this interesting company out of Ireland and showed it to me and shared it with me. It's like, wow, what do you know? This kind of tastes like it smells. That's really nice.
Now,
Okay,
are we
cool.
talking like back in the day, like the original volcano vaporizer?
No, this one was the specific product was called the Iolite. So made by come on, what's the name of the company over there? They went by the name Iolite, but it was also something in Oglesby, but the name will come to me later. They also happen to make a lot of the butane powered like soldering irons and things like that. So if you go to like Home Depot, or even if you buy like a Snap-on tool, you're gonna find that almost all of these butane powered type tools, the small little handheld portable ones, are made by this company in Ireland, which you wouldn't think it'd be in Ireland. When I found it was Ireland, I was like, what? It just doesn't make sense. But it is. Anyway, so that started the journey. I can talk more about that company at some point if you'd like to, because I ended up visiting them a few years back and got to see their whole production facility. I was like, wow, you actually aren't just located in Ireland, you actually make the stuff here. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
But anyway, this cool little device looked like a walkie-talkie. And the thing that really caught my attention is it didn't have any batteries. It was a portable device, right? About the size of a smartphone, a little bit thicker. One of the big smartphones. It helped me experience what I think things could really be. And so I did some research. I ended up buying one because I couldn't find anything that, to my knowledge, was any better, because this was 2012. There weren't a lot of options on the market. So bought one. Used that for a while. It's like, this is nice, but it takes a while to warm up. Chamber's kind of big. It takes a long time to kind of finish it off. And the whole thing's kind of big. And I can see why people don't buy them, because when I bought it, it was $300. I was like, wow.
Yikes.
There's gotta be.
That's what I remember about those early volcanoes.
Oh, expensive.
They were like $1,000, $1,200, and they had a huge bag. You had to fill up this whole huge bag,
yeah.
and nobody had them. You find one guy who's got one, and he only breaks it out when he's got having a huge party or something.
Yeah, because it's a process, right?
Yeah.
It's like rounding up the troops and going and cutting wood. It's process. So yeah, I had the process for a while, and then I had Inspiration Day. And I was just sitting in my basement with a couple people I really like, and we were using the product, and some other things kind of came up, just talking about stuff, and it was like the question arose, like, why are these things so big and so expensive? I mean, come on. What really is what we're calling a vaporizer. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about a nicotine vape. I'm not talking about things that use e-liquid or anything along those lines. I'm talking about a device that basically bakes your flower instead of burning it. Why do they have to be so big and expensive? And when that question came up, it 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 put me in the state of mind that I actually like to live in, and that's okay. Well, if that's the question, what's the answer? And so, got right up off the couch. This was in my basement. I just had random supplies because I like to make things, and went and grabbed a few objects, a little glass vial, a lighter, and I did kind of one of those things that many of us, I think, have done on many occasions. I took apart a Bic pen because I needed a straw. And took a little bit of flour. I dropped it in this glass vial, stuck the straw in one end, and heated the end with a lighter, basically to make a quick makeshift little oven. And as I'm watching this thing, it's like, oh, look at that. It's starting to form some vapor. I sipped it right out with the straw. It's like, huh, tastes just like the eye light. Okay. So it really is that simple.
Just that simple.
Well, yeah, on a conceptual level, right?
Dude. You know that I've always said, right? Smoking a little bit of flour is always the mother of invention. That's how so many things in this world have been created.
Oh, I just love that the stoner engineering subreddit. I don't know if you ever paid attention to that one.
Shit. Willie, you ever seen that one? I have.
No, I'm not familiar with this one. I am familiar with our DynaVap,
Okay,
but I
so
don't know.
the stoner engineering is kind of fun. It's mostly people making pipes out of random things, but occasionally there's just some real goodies in there.
Willie's
All right,
Willie's gonna follow that one right.
I'm looking it up now. Yeah.
So I heard you referred to as one-wheel Willie. Do you like to balance on one-wheeled objects, Willie?
Yeah, I ride a one wheel occasionally.
Nice.
That's I was really riding a lot before we moved when I kind of changed my online name persona. So
Okay,
that's where that comes from.
that's fun. I found riding one-wheeled objects to be a rather engaging and satisfying pastime as well.
Do you like the original one wheel, or do you like the I forget what they're called, but where like you kind of stand on the side of like the wheels go like
The
with
unicycle.
you? Yeah, the unicycle style.
It depends on what I'm doing. The If I'm just hanging around, just kind of doop de doo, the one wheel generally wins. If I'm trying to get work done around the shop and I need to get from one end of the building to the other, the one wheel wins because it's incredibly maneuverable, and it also allows you to stand stationary on it without much difficulty, which is pretty nice. But when you're on the unicycle, standing stationary is really difficult. But you're going to crush some mountain bike trails. The unicycle wins.
Okay. Yeah, I've never tried the unicycle style. Um, I like the snowboard kind of carved feeling of
Oh,
the one wheel.
it's awesome.
Especially,
But
I'm kind of out in the California desert where it's not as easy for me to get up to the mountains very much anymore. So
that's where one wheel just really shines.
yeah.
Once I was able to get some level of competency on the unicycle and start going down the mountain bike trails, oh boy, did my perspective change. Because now you got an 18-inch wheel instead of a 10-inch wheel, and you've got 2 or 3 times the horsepower, somewhere in the neighborhood of triple to quadruple the range. and throw some suspension travel on there on top of it. I mean, it's a lot of wins.
I did not know that. So those versions, they've built suspension into them now?
Oh yeah, the electric unicycles have evolved to a pretty scary degree. Uh, I don't want to push them to what I would refer to as the speed limit, because you can buy unicycles now that can travel at highway speeds.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's scary.
And
Yoshi.
so it's literally a one-wheeled motorcycle.
Yeah, there's 3 people behind my house. I've got a very nice paved bicycle pathway behind my house, and it connects all the way to downtown, plus our all other places and our very, very huge bicycle route map here. And there's 3 of them that actively use it every morning, but there's one dude, and I mean he don't fuck around. He actually had a studded tire on his in the wintertime, and he was rocking.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. He like when he slows down when he goes by me and the dog, or when he passes anybody else, he goes slow. But when he frickin' leans into it, man, he's gone. Like, I've been wanting to talk to the guy for a really long time, but it's kind of hard when he's zipping by. But yeah, like, I watch him and he like leaves everything in the dust, and he is leaning over like super far. Like, it is epically noticeable. I didn't know they had suspension. That's cool.
Yeah, some of the heavier ones have crazy suspension. I mean, like 6 inches of suspension travel.
Wow, that's what?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, the one I usually trail ride has 4.
Wow.
And I don't want a bigger one because it just makes everything heavier,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when you need to pick it up, whether it's because it tipped over or you're trying to just put it back in the car. But super nice because I can throw 2 of these unicycles and a one wheel in the back of my car and don't even have to tip the seats down.
Right?
I can throw 2 one wheels and 2 unicycles in the back of the car with all the riding gear and not have to tip the seats down. So just takes up less space than a bicycle.
Yeah,
And it looks cooler too.
and they're just so fun. They are just so fun.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, this weekend when we were at Fendel's, Yoshi Labs, he's not in here tonight actually, but yeah, he was. I didn't know this, but Yoshi rides a unicycle style one, Willie. So
Okay.
yeah, he was going off about it, but pretty much the same thing. He's like, no, like, these things cruise. He's like, I wear full gear, and he's like, he doesn't take his to full either. It scares. It's the point where it scares the poop out of him just a little bit.
I don't want to do it either. You know, that's another reason why I like the mountain bike trails is that the terrain is interesting enough that you don't have to seek speed for a thrill. You maneuver around the rocks and the roots.
Yeah.
And you do that at low speed. And the thing that I appreciate the most about the unicycle versus the one wheel, especially on challenging terrain, is when you catch a rock wrong, or your foot pad hits something, or will fill in the blank that throws you off. You're in the position that you've been in your entire life, walking or running. And as soon as you're in the air, your instincts effectively take over. And it's pretty shocking how easy it is to land on your feet.
Yeah.
Versus a one wheel, you're going sideways. And once you start going more than about 6 miles an hour on a one wheel, once you lose your balance, it's difficult.
It gets hard to run it out. Yeah.
Yeah, really difficult. Not saying you can't. You can. But it's way harder.
Yeah, that's where I'll tone it down. I've got the kiddie version of it all, and I have a hoverboard. But that's the one thing I noticed on the hoverboard, is that, yeah, when you go to fall off of it, at least you're already in that walking position, so you just run it out. As long as you're prepared to just start moving your feet, you can save your ass. But yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
See, now I'm clicking around. Now I'm like, fuck, by the end of the show, I'm going to buy one. I talked myself out of it a while ago when One Wheel when I started hanging out with One Wheel, I was like, man, I got to get one. Then I talked myself out of it. And now we're talking again.
Well, winter came around up there, and now it's summertime again. So that's why you're like going back and forth.
I told you that dude.
I know better.
That dude behind my house, man, he made a studded tire for his. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I was looking at those. I don't know if I really want to ride on ice, but at the same time,
it's. I mean, that guy. It's his. I know he's going to work and back. Like, I mean, it's his mode of transportation. So I just imagine how much cash he's saving. Plus, when he rolls into the office, I mean, he's the coolest dude going.
yes,
Yeah, it's lot less sweaty than riding a bike too.
it's serious transportation.
The office,
no question. And
you don't feel like you need
whether you're talking about the unicycle or a one wheel, I found my one wheel to be one of my absolute favorite toys when I'm around the shop, because now I can get from this end of the building to that end of the building, and then, oh crap, I need a hammer. I go over there and get that, or I got to pick up this thing over there, because you don't need to have anything in your hands, and they're so incredibly maneuverable that to drive them around inside a building is actually very practical.
How big a shop do you guys operate out there?
How should I describe it? You could, you could pretty comfortably park a few dozen cars in it. So it's big enough to ride a one wheel around. That's for sure.
Okay.
That's my kind of shop.
Yeah. Well, you might want to just come visit sometime, and I can show you around and show you how we make all of our stuff.
You guys are out of Colorado, is that right?
No, we're actually in Wisconsin.
Oh, that's why I'm getting a Wisconsin accent from you. I was going to ask that. I was going to ask you because I thought for some reason I thought you guys were out of Colorado. But I'm like,
I thought about moving to Colorado.
You got some kind of Midwestern, maybe even possibly, middle Canadian accent. But okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Dude, definitely would love to come for a visit someday. 100%. So just kind of steering it back around to the discovery process. So you had the glass tube, you had the pen, you discovered the vape was there.
Yep.
You did it. So then right there it was, okay, let's get over to the lathe and let's figure this out, or where'd it go from there?
Well, from there it went over to my desk, and it's like, okay, now I know that concept works. How do I turn this into a product that, no offense to anyone when I say it this way, that normal people can use, right? Because not many people are going to want to sit there with a test tube and a Bic pen and a lighter.
Well, let's be honest here. Most of us have at least some point. I remember smoking out of a guy's inhaler. So, I mean.
Okay.
Well, and it's actually funny you say that, because before I got a DynaVap, I had one of the earlier like battery powered dryer vapes.
Okay.
And I could never remember the goddamn click buttons on it. The bowls were too hard to pack. You had to pack it in this little thing to then put inside the chain, and it was not easy to use. So I ended up not really ever using it.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of the various ideas and products that they end up there, where the concept is actually good, but the reduction to practice could use a little bit of refinement, right? Because that's just how people are. We want to use things that are enjoyable to use. And when things are difficult, unless it's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and you like doing puzzles, people tend to not do things that are difficult unless they have a reason to do something that's difficult. And when it comes to choosing what we like to refer to as, baking instead of burning, if it's much more difficult than just simply packing it and lighting it, most people just simply aren't going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the one thing this gives you. It's very, very convenient.
And that was the goal from the beginning. Once all I need is an oven and something that's hot, and I can bake my cookies instead of burning them. Okay, now how do we convert the concept of just a simple low-cost oven, a user-supplied heat source? Okay, how do we make that so it's easy to use and relatively simple to not burn your cookies? That took a little bit more effort to figure that out.
Yeah, and that's where the clicky cap comes in, right? Which lets us know when we're at
That's
temperature.
that's pretty much it, right? So, the first thing that needed to be done is we needed to transition from, a vial, a test tube, right, to something that's a shape that's a little bit easier to load with material, and then more importantly, unload, right, get the residue out. So I evolved from the glass vials to, believe it or not, taking like a glass pipette, which is like the glass part of an eyedropper. It's like, oh, this looks like a tiny little one hitter. And the interesting thing with those is the glass is so thin that just using a butane torch, you can actually heat it up to the point where you can neck the tubing in and make a little bowl. It's like, okay, here we go.
No way.
Yeah, you try it. Just take apart an eyedropper, pop the glass part out of the little rubber thing, and the part that goes into the rubber's got a nice little bead around the edge. If you just take a little torch lighter and aim, I don't know, 5, 7 millimeters, 10 millimeters back from there, and heat it up, you'll watch. It takes just a few seconds. It'll start to glow and it'll start to soften up, and the surface tension on the glass will suck it right in.
Sure.
And then if you just rotate it between your fingers, slowly, you can basically suck it in all the way around and make a little bowl.
Dude. Out of everything I fucked around with when I was a kid and figured out, that was not one of them.
Are you telling me you fucked around and didn't find out?
Yeah, I fucked around and I did. Yeah.
So that's what I did next, right? And from there, I was just kind of heating the outside of the glass with a lighter, and it worked. But it's just too similar to lighting the end. And how am I going to teach people that, yeah, this is not a one hitter? You actually heat the side instead of lighting the end. That's not going to work. And if your lighter placement's off or the wind blows wrong, your flour is going to burn anyway. So, okay, we got to cover it up, and that's where the cap came into play. And it's like, okay, we got a cap now so you don't accidentally burn your cookies. How do you know when the temperature's right? And I think that was probably one of the more important moments is, how do you know when the temperature's right? You got a temperature indicator, put some paint on there that changes color. And I thought on this for weeks until, one day it just clicked. And I was thinking about thermostats, right?
Pun intended.
Absolutely. So thermostats generally come in, a couple common styles or types, right? One of the more common types that we don't see very often but are there are like in your oven, in your furnace. If you got a gas fireplace, guaranteed there's at least one, if not two of them in there. Pretty much anything that gets hot. Even the compressors in your refrigerator have these little thermostatic switches in them. And the way that they know when they're at a specific temperature is there's a mechanism in there that is a metal of a particular shape and construction that when it hits a certain temperature that can be calibrated, it changes shape and makes a little click. And it's like, okay, why don't I just put one of those in my little metal cap? Which concept, it was simple. Figuring out a way to do it, that took a lot more time than I thought it would. I'll just go online. I'll find someone that makes, the material I'm looking for. I'll buy some. I'll make the right shape, and I'll put it in the cap. No, not anywhere near that easy. Because to get this to function right, the precision in terms of the shape that you need to create is pretty ridiculous. I mean, because that's how you calibrate these things, right? By bending them in a very, very specific and precise way. And just a little bit more bend or a little bit not enough, and you can throw your temperature calibration off by so much that it just doesn't even work anymore.
So is that now? So what, as I'm holding mine in my hand right now, so is that how you came up with the final shaping of the actual rest of it, so that it worked well with that?
Well, that was part of it, right? So once I figured out that I couldn't make my own thermostats, it's like, okay, now I got to find someone that can make them for me. And I struggled. I searched and searched and searched and searched. And I just couldn't find anyone that could make them the size that I was looking for, which is actually a smaller diameter than what the product is right now. Finally, I found a company that could make something that was close. I was like, well, I guess I have to increase the size of the device so I can accommodate it. So that determined the diameter of the cap.
So as you're reaching out to these companies to try to get the cap made, are you telling them what it's for, or are you like, no, I just need it kind of this size?
No, not at all. No, I'm just looking for this part. Can you make it for me? Right.
Right.
Now anymore, if they ask, I usually kind of dodge the question a little bit. Yeah, we make precision metal parts. But if they really look into it, because they can see, at DynaVap.com in my email, it's going to be evident if they ask me. I was like, yeah, we make those. And it can create a really fun conversation, because I think many people, when they come across the product, and this still happens, even now, have you ever thought about you could do it like this, and then it might sell better, or and people just offering advice on how to bring the product to market, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but the way that they start talking is like, I haven't done this or haven't sold but just 100 of these or so, and I'm just kind of getting started. And I'm not saying that we've sold, a huge number, but I know I've sold more than I can hold in my hands.
That and that kind of takes me to a point, because I got personally, I found this because I kind of the same thing. I was looking for a vaporizer, and then somebody had given me a small rechargeable battery operated one, which was great.
Nice.
But it had a ceramic bowl in it that couldn't be taken out, couldn't be cleaned. So eventually everything just smelt and tasted like that skunky, brown old done weed, right? So
can't get it clean.
Yeah, and then I started searching around. Well, I didn't really have to search very far because it came up pretty fucking quick. Actually, as a matter of fact, when I started Googling it, I can't recall what criteria I was using, but it came up fast, and I was like, and it was just like some of the people in here that we were talking to in April. They were all like, it was just like it was meant to be. It was right there, and we were like, fuck, that's it. And it was really funny because I was trying to find where to buy one, and so there was a couple online shops here, but it was the shipping getting to me every time. It was just like, come on, man, like this is ridiculous. Like, I live in Canada, and shipping stuff around up here, even the smallest things, can be just stupid.
It's terrible. And I feel for you guys, because we ship to Canada, And I look at the shipping quotes. It's like, come on, really?
Yeah. No, exactly. So then I just happened to find a place. She's not in business anymore. I can't recall the name, but it's local in my city, and it was like delivery was dirt cheap, or you can come pick it up, and it was a home business too. She stole.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I was like, oh my god. So I skipped right past the whole ordering online, and I'm like, where's the phone number? And I called the phone number, and she's like, yeah, you bet. She's like, so many people don't get these things. She's like, you need to talk to people for them to really get what it is. I said, well, I know what it is, and I want it now. I flew down anyway. So yeah, I flew down there, but
So did it make sense for you right away, or did it take a little while for you to get it?
nope, made total sense. As soon as I saw it and read about it, it made exact sense because I understood how the vaporizing worked, right? And I knew what, right? I hate the batteries, and a butane torch is much easier to manage.
Oh
So
yeah, you can recharge it in 3 seconds.
yeah, exactly. You run out and just right there you go. And I mean, hey, if you have to, you can use a Bic lighter. And for one hash brown, I'll tell you, you can use a candle.
Sure can.
And
In fact, I actually encourage people to use a Bic lighter, especially when you're inside, because it actually works really well, especially with the lighter weight titanium tips, because they don't have as much mass, so they heat up a little bit quicker. The key to using a Bic lighter is you want to bury it in the flame and ideally make all the yellow go away. And if you do that, your cap doesn't even get sooty. And because the flame wraps around the cap, your heat transfer is actually really efficient. And I can heat up a titanium tip device that we make in about the same amount of time with a Bic lighter as I can with a torch.
oh,
So if you use a Bic, do you not have to worry about the rotation of it as much to get the heating more even?
The rotation always helps, but so there's several advantages with the Bic. First off, again, this doesn't apply when you're outside because the Bic flame just blows around in the wind, and that's so all bets are off. Okay, but when you're inside and you don't have wind, and you bury the cap in the flame, you get coverage of somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200 to 270 degrees of the circumference of your cap with the flame. So you get much better heat transfer. Second to that, the thermal intensity of a Bic lighter is much lower, so the need for rotation is less because of that. In addition to the fact that you get the flame wrapping around the cap. So do you need to rotate? The answer is not really, but if it's not a major thing for you, if you can roll it back and forth 2-3 times over the course of the 10 to 15 seconds it takes to bring it up to temperature, you're going to get a little bit more even heat. But that's all it is.
that's cool. Wow, I've used a Bic a few times for sure, and definitely I knew. I mean, just because I'm a heavy duty mechanic, so I'm fully aware of how using a torch and where you need to be, where the temperature is better, and the orange flame obviously is going to create the soot, but
Yep.
I'm more efficient. Well, yeah, I love it. Well, I do. I mean, let's face the facts. I do. It happens all the time, especially like if I go to my cabin and I forget to bring my butane with me. It's Bics all day long. So
Yep. It works.
I mean, I'm the type when I jump into something, I jump head first. So I
Well,
went,
it's fun.
I jumped in on like Black Friday and got an Omni with the wand and everything. So,
Nice.
lighters, I tried a couple of them just to like try to get the feel, and then I was like, nah, screw this. We're just gonna go straight Omni or
And the induction
wand
heaters are awesome.
induction heater. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a breeze. It's so easy and so great.
is there have you noticed, is there any difference to whether doing heating it up quicker or slower works better? Like my mindset was I was thinking slower because I press weed and I make rosin. So
Okay.
getting the heat in there to get everything warmed up a little bit before you press it down kind of makes it flow better. Is there any truth to that with using?
Yes, there certainly is, and I'm gonna qualify this with it depends on what you're looking for, right? So there's there's a couple ends to this spectrum for us to explore. So low and slow, is great, right? If you're looking for a more intense and a more complete extraction in fewer cycles. We got a few terms that we like to share with people because they're easy to remember and they just kind of make sense, right? And that's heat the tip for a tasty rip, heat the base, talking about the cap, to go to space, right? Or below the base to melt your face, because where you heat on the cap and or the tip determines how many energy units you can drive into the extraction chamber before the cap clicks. And that isn't just a temperature thing, it's how many available heat units are in there to facilitate the extraction experience. Okay, so you can go from just a quick little puff that tastes really nice, mostly terpenes and not a lot of actives, which sometimes that's all you're looking for. And when you do that on our lightest weight tip currently, which is the titanium helix tip, and you can get that thing up to temperature and be taking a puff in just a few seconds, and take a little quick puff and put it right back in your pocket in all under a minute. Versus when you heat with a smaller flame, whether it's a Bic or a single flame, kind of low on the cap or even slightly below it, and taking your sweet time to bring it up to temperature, you can get some seriously dense, thick vapor coming out of these things. So, all depends what you're looking for.
I love it. I love it.
So
Yes.
for those people that are looking for that big dense cloud, they want to go lower on the tip, lower on the base.
Absolutely. Yep. So the line where the cap meets the tip is kind of a good reference point. But be careful. If you heat too low and you heat too slow, you may burn your cookies.
Well, time to start packing the DynaVap and doing some testing. I heated. That's where I go as the base, because I do remember that. I think I watched that from one of the early videos when I first purchased mine. So I'm always down there all the time.
That sounds good. Time to click some caps.
Yeah, I'm just clicking caps the whole time.
Uh,
Just kind of give a little room reset to folks here for those that don't know, but I know I'm looking around this room and I'm going, there's a lot of people in here that know exactly what we're talking about, and they're probably at the base right now. This is the Night Train broadcast. We are here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, talking to artists about the art and the journey. Tonight, we are talking to George. Sorry, there was the weed. George. And at the beginning, I just wanted to get your pronunciation, because I've been saying Breiwa, but is it Breiwa?
It is.
Okay. That is who we are speaking with tonight. We never know sometimes, we're a lot of the times when we have guests on, we've pretty much never spoken to them, maybe DM'd them, but we don't know very much about them. So sometimes there's been a few times where we've had guests on where we've just been totally obliterating their name the whole time, and they come on and they pronounce it, and we're like, oh, sorry. But anyways, we weren't told.
Right?
Pardon me?
It's all good though.
Yeah.
We're just chatting, talking about stuff.
Hey, we've all got that one common thing in common. That's a little bit of cookies.
Yeah.
Like call cookies. Actually, it was very cool to me. When I discovered the DynaVap, I was like, yeah. But then I got it and I started using it, and then I'm going to everybody that I know, and I'm like, you fucking need to get one of these. You need to get one of these. You need to get one of these. And they all thought I was nuts. They didn't like it. Like, you got to try one of these. And it was really funny because 99% of the time, I did not have mine with me. Like, if I was at work, obviously I don't have it at work, and
Sure.
some places don't have it. And so I couldn't hand it to them. But that was the thing, is if you could hand it to somebody, blow their minds. One wheel, we started doing the show,
Yep.
and then about it. And then I explained it to him. He's like, what? And of course, he's Googling it as I'm telling him. And he's like, oh, I'm ordering one of these.
Well, I had like seen it somewhere, you know, I don't know, maybe some online store had it while I was looking for a new pipe or something at one time. And I kind of seen it and then maybe like brush it off. But then yeah, you were saying that you had one, you loved it. I'm like, you know what? I have seen that and it looked interesting. So I'm like, all right, you sold me.
And how long did it take you to pick it up there, One Wheel?
Um, it took me a couple months because like I said, I think I kind of knew that Black Friday was coming around, and I think there was a big sale that I had like just missed. It might have even been like way earlier in the year. I might have missed the 420 sale. Um, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just like wait. Like I think we were moving at the time, um, so you know funds were a little tighter and time was a little tighter and things like that. So I think I was like, you know, I'll just kind of like keep an eye, maybe find another sale or wait for Black Friday. So it did take a while, but
Did it take you a while to pick it up for it to make sense, or did it click for you right away?
well, like I said, I got the wand, so I had watched all the videos, you know, and Bits had kind of explained it to me. So I picked, you know, I got the hang of it in the first, I don't know, second try maybe.
Okay.
But then I think I like accidentally pinched the cap
Uh-huh.
or something. And like you said, if you bend it too much, then now it doesn't click right. So I was actually burning my cookies for a little too long there. And that's when I was like, you know what? I don't know if it's the lighter or if I bent this cap wrong and now it's not clicking right. That's when I went to I switched to the wand, the induction heater, and just got a lot better rips from it. You
Yeah,
know, a lot smoother, a lot tastier.
the wand really changes things up nicely.
And then
Yeah.
you know, picked up a new cap because I was like, well, I just make sure it's not this also. And it definitely was. There was definitely a problem after like bending that cap too much, and because the like when I got a new cap, you know, it was even tastier. So you know, you could
Beautiful.
tell it was I wasn't burning it at all anymore, and it's been
It's,
smooth sailing ever since.
it's really hard to beat the flavor experience of some nice fresh baked cookies.
It's off the hook, off the hook. Like we have a lot of friends in the space that are big bong people, and I mean, hey, everybody loves a good bong hit every once in a while. But so trying to convince them, but then I tell them like, look, there's an adapter. You can use this your bong, but they seem to be worried that they're not going to. Well, no, man, I got a big bowl and I like to just pack it. And it's like, well, number one, like think about how much you're wasting. Think about like you said at the beginning, the things that you're inhaling that you don't want to, that you shouldn't be, and the flavor just gets that much better, right? I don't think any of our bong smoking friends have converted yet, but also with that. That was the other, another thing I was going to bring up was that when we had the space the first time when we were going to have you on as a guest, it blew me away and this kind of goes back to how many you've sold or whatever. But then it blew me away that in that space, we had friends that we didn't even know that smoked out of them. They're like, yeah, I got one. Yeah, I got one. Yeah,
Half of them I don't think we even knew smoked,
yeah, that's true. That's very, very true
and
too.
they're
And then
like, yeah, I used that.
Wow.
Like, whoa, I didn't think you smoked even.
iteration down there. She smokes. Illumixis. He actually won the second one that we gave away, and
Nice.
he's been a long time customer. He's like, oh, I hope they look in their database and they know who I am and blah blah. And it kind of worked out that way. And then Hash Brown, he's in the space right now too. He won the first one and he's never experienced it. The person that we've been communicating with was like, oh well, we'll send you a starter pack because you have to have the full on experience. Like you don't want, I mean, makes sense. You don't want to send somebody part of a project and go, well, did you buy the other pieces for it? No. Oh, too bad. You're going to have a shitty experience. So that was really kind.
Yeah. Well, that's what the goal is. We want to do our part to help help people have a good experience. Is that's a big part of what life is all about. If we can share good experiences with other people that can appreciate them, how amazing is our life?
Beautiful thing to say. I agree 100%. And that's kind of the vibe we have going on in this Web3 world, and where we're all hanging out here. And like when we have these spaces, all of our artist friends, it that that seems to be something that vibes with us quite often. So true. So
I think we're in alignment there. That's that was something that was really important, at least for me, and I think it's translated through for pretty much everyone that works here at this company. That we're not just doing this for something to do. We're doing this because we genuinely believe that our products are helping people get more of what they're looking for out of life. And even if it's not the product, it's just the way we want to operate in terms of making people feel like we care about them, because we do. We want you to know that we care, because we wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that people liked and wanted to buy our product. So we're grateful for that. So we want to go out of our way to kind of share that gratitude and see if we can't, along the way, find other ways to give people a reason to want to share our product, our concept, the whole message with other people out there.
yeah, absolutely. I spread the word, and I'm sure everybody that does either use your product or has been in contact with your company definitely agrees with what you were laying down there. You guys are fantastic. The person who runs your social media, or whoever I speak to on Twitter all the time, like, been great ever since I reached out. And literally, we were sitting around. We're like, it'd be cool to have sponsorships or something like that, right? But they're like, who sponsors this stuff? We don't know. It's like we have numbers and stuff like that, but we're not thousands and thousands of people in here every night or anything. But so I just reached out. I'm like, hey, would you like to sponsor us? And here's what's going on. Did a big write up. The back was, the response was, well, we'd like to, but yeah, sure, interested maybe. Can you give us a little more details? And then kind of communications dwindled off a bit on both sides. And then one day I just said, look, we're going to do this show after 420, and we'd really like you guys to be a part of it. Can George come on? And, or sudden it's like, well, up that. Let's give away a couple DynaVaps. And we're like, yeah.
All right.
Always been positive. Always been.
Isn't it fun when things can just simply work out nice?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. It blew us away. It was the most anybody had. Well, we've had a lot of great things done for us, but as far as anything like that, like, it's the greatest thing that somebody did for us, and we appreciate it very, very much. And I mean, talking to you is a genuine. I mean, it's an absolute interest of ours. It's what we do here on. I mean, we like to get into the nitty gritty and talk about, for lack of better terms in this case, nerding.
I think it's good, right? I've thought about the term engineering, right? It's kind of how we make our things. We don't have to do things the way that we do, but we want to, right? Our products are not engineered to be as cheap as we can possibly make them, to hopefully get as much money from our customers as we can possibly manage. It's like, no. This began from the idea of, is there a more simplistic and economical way to give more people access to the option of baking instead of burning their cookies? That was basically question number one, right? And once it became clear that, yep, there's some people out there that'd be interested in that, and they started buying, our original glass VAP caps, which were pretty cheap and not very durable, but they worked. Well, all of a sudden, we had sales. Okay, what are we going to do with those sales? Well, my opinion was really simple. Buy cooler machines so we can make better product. And not just to make cheaper product. No, we already had cheap product. We want to make better product. How good? As good as we possibly can. But if it doesn't break, why would people come back and buy another one? Because we'll make it cooler. So they buy another one, even though the other one still works.
I've seen so much of that on Reddit too, of people like, oh, I just picked up the M7 and I've got 6 other ones, and I'm like, huh, all right.
Well, Illumixis, I think, has at least 3 now, if not 4, plus some accessories. And there's been somebody else on Twitter that was chatting with Illumixis and us a couple times that has really started opening our eyes on how to use some of these things. And we're like, what? Like, it creates. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's pretty confident to say that once you sell one of these to somebody, that's it. You've got a customer for life. Like, and somebody who's going to walk around preaching the DynaVap word.
Isn't that kind of fun though? So instead of engineering a product that breaks so people come back, well, I don't know about you guys, and I don't know why it's not thought about this way more often, but when I buy a product and it breaks, forgive my French, but that company, I want to buy something that doesn't break. I don't like buying products that break unless I buy them with the intention of breaking them. Of course, you break eggs. That's why you buy them, right? That's expected. But, if I'm going to spend money on a device, on a gadget, I want to buy the coolest one I can get. And, oh, you mean it's really durable and it could last not only my entire lifetime, but for generations? Really? Now that's awesome. You don't see that in many products.
I think so much of it is like fed to us that way, that that you should expect it to break. You should expect it to only last a year or two. With all the cheap stuff coming out of China these days, and just off the shelf parts that they just slap together for whatever, whatever the product is. And then you've even got companies like Apple who engineer their software to not work after 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah, and make their products as difficult to repair as possible.
Yeah, they plan the obsolescence in so that you have to buy new, several years down the line. And it's just kind of like taught to us by all these companies. Amazon feeds you all the crap from China, and Apple makes you buy new stuff every 5 years, whether you want to or not.
Yep.
And it's
what it is.
It's definitely a different approach to like have something that is going to last like that.
I look at it as a challenge, right? And when I first had the ability, to buy some better equipment to make cooler stuff, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make these things as durable as possible, because durable products, they matter to me. And when the concept came up about a year, actually it was a couple years in, but only a few months in from kind of announcing the concept to the public, which I did that on a semi-failed crowdfund campaign on Indiegogo back in July of 2015.
Indiegogo.
Yeah, well,
that's funny.
That's exactly what it was. It was a no-go. I have not had great success with Indiegogo so far. I can get into those stories too, because I think they're kind of fun. But I ended up winning, even though they froze my account and canceled my crowdfund, not once but twice, and refunded all of the contributions. Because I managed to save all the email addresses of all the contributors.
Did it have something to do with it being a smoking related product?
I think they had updated their terms and conditions. So when I originally decided to go that route, it was because I was reading about another company that I don't think exists anymore, called Grasshopper, that funded the initiation of their company on Indiegogo. And when I looked at it, I don't know if it's still on there, if they still have them all archived. I was like, they raised like $370,000. And I saw that, I was like, wow, could I really get this adventure going if I could raise even $100,000. Yeah, that didn't work. But
That's clever that you saved all those email addresses, though. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
well, I was so upset after they canceled my my campaign, and they said, "Yeah, you can raise money for a vaporizer. You just can't offer the vaporizer as a perk," is what they said. It's like, okay, then I won't offer the vaporizer as a perk. So I went through my whole campaign, and I changed the description in the perk from the glass vap cap to a special case, perfectly sized to fit a glass vap cap. So I wasn't offering the device; I was offering a case for it, but left all the pricing and everything the same. And that actually worked really well for about 9 days, because as soon as the campaign went live again, uh, it was probably one of the most exhilarating moments I've had in my entire life, when over the course of just a couple of hours, my phone just started going ding, ding, and sometimes two.
Uh,
Did we lose him?
I got you, Bits.
I got you, Willie.
We might have lost
George
him.
disappeared. Oh no! We were talking dings. There's too many dings.
Ding ding.
Well, it really wasn't that many. I think before the campaign got shut down, I think I had raised somewhere around $3,700. So we're not talking about big dollars here. And of course, I didn't get any of it, at least not from Indiegogo, because they shut it down. They refunded everybody's money. But so then I talked to the web developer, and it's like, hey,
So why did they shut it down the second time? I think you cut out and we couldn't hear you.
oh, they didn't say why. They just froze my account and shut it down, and I couldn't even access it for a while. I don't know if they thought I was trying to be cute, changing my perk from a vaporizer that wasn't allowed to a special case perfectly sized to fit the vaporizer.
I mean, that's a real leap of faith as a customer too, to be like, is he just trying to get around something here? Is it really gonna come with it? I mean, what were the dings all people messaging you to ask you that,
No,
or
the dings were contributions, and there's a
okay,
few people that messaged, but I was pretty coy about it because I didn't want my campaign to get canceled. I was kind of paranoid about the whole situation. Um, but it was really actually empowering to see how many people were willing to take. I mean, it wasn't expensive. I mean, I was offering these things if you just bought the cheap packages, $20. I mean, we're talking 2015, so worth a little bit more, but to risk $20 on a crowdfund is probably within most people's budget.
yeah,
Yep. I piss away $20 in way worse ways. That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, it got things going, and once things started to go, and I'm reading about some of our products and how people are using them on a vaporizer forum. They're talking about the durability and they're looking for more options of it, but they like the concept. And the community connected me to Ed's T&T, longtime member of that forum, and a guy that's been in the industry way longer than I have. Really good guy. So I reached out to him, we connected, we got on the phone. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing. I said, well, I make wood stems. For his main thing at that point was making wood stems for the Solo, made by a riser. And it's like, cool. How do I work with a guy that makes wood things when I'm making a glass vaporizer? That's not going to work well, because I can't make a wood vaporizer. Because
right.
you'd be baking your cookies and your wood at the same time, and you can have woody cookies.
That's it. There's a dad joke in there somewhere, I'm sure.
So it ended up being a really good thing because put me back in that state of mind again. It's like, okay, community wants me to work with this guy. Community wants other options other than something that breaks like glass. Well, how do I adapt the technology to work with something else? And so came another moment. It's like, well, instead of making this thing out of glass, why don't I make the oven out of titanium? Because, I mean, who doesn't like titanium? Most people really like titanium, and it's, especially in 2015, titanium, and what titanium products could you even buy? There weren't many on the market at all, right?
No, that was like some badass futuristic metal.
Yeah, you almost couldn't get it, right? It sounds funny, if you didn't look for titanium, 10 years ago, you wouldn't know, but it was hard to find any consumer product made out of titanium. And if it had any in it, it was like a little piece of accent or something. So we'll start with titanium. Now, how do I connect the titanium to the wood? And it's like, well, why don't I use some high temperature O-rings? That way, if the wood shape is a little bit off, they can kind of squish and adjust and still hold things together, and they'll function like an insulator so you don't transfer as much heat. So that was a really important moment because now I had a concept to make a modular component, right? So I could connect a tip and a cap to basically anything that had a hole the right size. And from there, it's like, all right, now where are we going to go? How do we make this thing as awesome as possible? And this is where the concept started to really kind of come into focus. And that's, no, you don't need to engineer your products to break so people come back and buy it more. You can take the complete opposite approach, and you can engineer your products so incredibly well that when people buy them, they want to buy more, not because they need it, because they want it.
Yeah. I need more. Big problem with me is that
I was
every time
looking at new stems and other gaps and stuff the other day.
the only thing that ever stops me when I look is the fact that I have to order everything. My local shops where I got after that lady stopped her business, there was one local shop that carried them, and to this day, they're still like literally on the stock that 5 years ago when I went to them, and they still have the 20s, and that's it. And they think I'm nuts when I ask for them.
Wow.
They do. Like every time I've gone in there, and they're like the very first time I went in there, because the very first one I bought disappeared. I'm not sure what happened. I think the ex-girlfriend might have taken it, but we don't know. But yeah, so I went to buy it. I found it, and I drove down the road to get it. And the kid that was in there, he's like not a kid. He was 18 anyways, but he's like, "What? This? I don't even get this." He's like, "Look at the packaging. Even does this even look like a good?" And that's where that kind of goes back to we talk about building something that's quality. His brain was so etched on that the packaging, because I mean, I guess the packaging is like a big portion of anything, but it was the 20M, and literally it was just that cardboard, like little foldy, clappy thing, which to me
Yep.
I thought brilliant. It's none of the BS. I can literally take this and recycle it, and it's all good. But
we were talking about it just a couple weeks ago about in a conversation about sustainability and things like that, and Bits brought that up, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. As where this guy back in the day is poo-pooing it.
Yeah. They just didn't get it. I love that cardboard packaging. So it ticks the boxes. It gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
No significant complexity needed. And the other part is that I thought was really nice is you can put it right back in the packaging, and you can use it as a carrying case, and it'll actually last for a few weeks and just be happy in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very, very quality cardboard for sure.
You know,
For how
what
little
other
it is.
packaging can do that?
Well, any other packaging wouldn't fit in your pocket, right? I mean, I envision some other company making something the size of a DynaVap, and it's going to have a case like the size of something you buy an iPhone in, right? Like that's the packaging it's going to come in.
Right.
The old
You know?
plastic clamshell packaging that was anti-theft, but you couldn't open.
Oh,
I'm so
some
glad
terrible
those days are
packaging.
mostly over.
Yeah, we're finally seeing that stuff, and that was just really terrible.
How many variations do you have now?
Uh,
Yeah, we ask the tough question.
I don't even know. I literally probably should have been counting, and every time we came with a new idea, oh, we could do this, and just hit the tick mark. But I didn't do that. So
Well, how many are currently available?
let me think. Well, if we just go through the models on the website, right? The main models, like the Vong, right, or the M, or the B, you know, are
Is the Omni still available?
I got to check the stock levels.
It's not something you guys have made in a while. Then it's just
We haven't done a production run for a while, but I still have a decent number of parts around that just need to go through and put them together, because that's a pretty intense piece to put together and to
just
manufacture. Just a lot of parts, and we chose to do something that, well, I shouldn't say something. We chose to do many things that, according to most people, are just really dumb, right? Engineer a product that's so good that you only ever need to buy one, and it lasts you your entire lifetime. Uh, you know, use expensive, high quality materials. Um, let's see, what else we do that's dumb. Uh, yeah, how about make your products out of commercially pure titanium? Okay, because titanium is an interesting material, but what a lot of people don't realize about titanium is the vast majority of titanium things that are used, whether we're talking about medical implants or aircraft engine parts, are made out of titanium alloys. One of the most popular one being grade 5, which doesn't mean it's inferior to grade 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just grade 5 is a classification, like 304 is a classification of stainless steel. And grade 5 titanium's alloy of 90% titanium, 6% aluminum, and 4% vanadium. So just swapping out 10% of your titanium lends you a material that is, no joke, twice as strong and way easier to machine. And actually, a number of other things that make it more appealing from a structural perspective. But it's got aluminum in it, and vaporizer fanatics really detest aluminum in their devices.
Yeah, if you smoke out of it all your life, you'll forget about it later.
yeah, that's for sure.
So it's one of those things. So at the beginning, okay, if we make it out of titanium, if we would have used grade 5, which very likely would have been completely fine because it's an alloy, it's mostly titanium, and we're not even burning out of it. You're just heating it to baking temperature inside of a stainless steel cap that's functioning like a heat shield from your flame. So the likelihood there's a problem there is basically non-existent. But we just thought we'd just stick with commercially pure titanium anyway, and that way there's simply no question.
There you go. So the reason I ask about the Omni is I definitely saw recent posts on Reddit and comments about from several different people wondering if it was coming back in stock or if it was still available or discontinued. So I mean, there's definitely people out there still clamoring for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're not even sure yet. Okay, I've got some parts, I can make up a few more, Of course, we still have the CNC machines. We've got all the stock. We got all the tooling. We got all the programs. We can make more. The question is, should we? Or has this product just run its course, like the Thai Woody, right? Don't make those anymore. The Nanavongs, don't make those anymore. The Hydrovongs, cool, but don't make those anymore, right? And there's other things too.
Well, and I was looking the other day because I was looking to see if there was a new version of the Omni. I was like, ooh, can I upgrade yet? So yeah, as it run its course, I'd be ready for a new version.
Is that what you smoke out of, Willie? Is the Omni, or is that what you? Oh, okay.
No, yeah, that's what I've got.
All right.
Fancy.
Yeah, I like fancy. It's
Well, like I say, when I go in head first, and I go all the way in. I'm not messing around.
Wait, call me poor and no, never mind.
well, so I don't want to shift in the wrong direction, but something I do find to be really fascinating is again diving a little bit further into this exploration about making quality durable products that last generations versus things that break so people buy more. Well, what I've seen is that in a lot of cases, when people have bought our products, used them for years, and then resell them out on the market used, it's actually not that uncommon that people are reselling these things for almost what they paid for them and sometimes even more used.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, people know a good thing when they see it, and I guess that maybe that's created a whole thing that's going to be the next thing on Reddit is everybody buying and selling vintage.
Well, it actually was a big thing on Reddit until Reddit went and changed their rules.
I say, yeah, you can't do stuff like that on Reddit. But
Not anymore.
I mean, there's still vaporizer forums, right?
Yep. And there's a Discord group that you can join that allows for buying and selling vaporizers. But I think it was up until 2 years ago when Reddit went through one of its first big changes. It might have been longer than that, so don't quote me on specific.
Well, and now that they've gone public, it'll
that's
there's another one right around the corner, I'm sure.
and well, I think that's a big part of the reason why it happened is because publicly traded companies have to follow a different set of rules, and when it comes to cannabis and associations, other things like that, things just get really weird and not necessarily in a good way. So I think as a lot of those preparations are happening, it was called the DynaVap Exchange. It used to be an actual Reddit community. There's like 10,000 people in there, and people buying and selling, posting pictures, just transactions going left and right. And it was a haven for people that were collecting things. Just pretty amazing things going on in there, and that's where I started to really see, holy cow, that's more than that thing cost new with people selling used product. Because occasionally we make unusual versions, right? Different colors or short production runs, and just other variations, or a product that we haven't made in years that someone's looking for, because now that other thing that happens when you make a product that people really like that's not intended to break, they start wanting to collect them, because here's a thing that you can collect instead of just sitting on a shelf. You can use it, and you can literally use it as much as you want, because for the most part it's not going to wear out. You're not going to damage it through use. I mean, you might wear out a cap occasionally. You might have to replace some O-rings.
That was my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Was if for some reason you guys went out of business, and 5 years down the line or whatever, and I'm like, well, what if I need O-rings?
I'm sure we could probably find these, Willie.
Well, yeah, I mean that was like my only concern though, was like, you just just looking at the website, you're like,
So
well,
there's a key
this thing's
thing, though.
made to be kept up for
Oh,
a
it
long
is.
time.
But a little quick tidbit here on the O-rings, okay? Yes, they're O-rings, okay? O-rings are not uncommon. However, the O-rings that we use in our devices, there's a couple reasons why I changed the color to gray. And the first one is because it's unusual to find gray O-rings, okay? So you're not just going to go on the hardware store and find gray O-rings, okay? And it's not because I wanted to make it so that people had to come and buy the O-rings from us. Of course, we want them to, but it's not the main reason. The main reason is because if the O-rings are black, it's just a black O-ring of a specific size. And what a lot of people don't realize is that black O-rings come in at least 9 different common elastomers. Okay, EPDM, neoprene, uh, Viton, Buna, right, or butyl rubber. Okay, just to name a few. Silicone as well, and they're all very, very different. And with the exception of silicone, none of the other elastomers has the ability to withstand the temperatures that, especially the tips, have to endure without starting to decompose and break down. In fact, the temperature rating on a typical black Buna O-ring is half what the gray O-rings that we put on our devices is. And just for full transparency here, the gray O-rings are manufactured from a material called FKM, which is also known under the trade name Viton. Okay. And since we're making them from this much higher quality material, and we were buying enough of them at the time, it's like, well, instead of just buying O-rings, black O-rings, which we did for a bit, it's like, why don't we change the color so everyone can see that visually that there's a difference between our O-rings and just standard O-rings, which on the tips and like the Omni condenser, it's a 6x1 millimeter O-ring if you're looking for the size.
Okay.
Get out to the garage, see if you got them.
I still have a few spare O-rings in there. I haven't burned through mine yet.
No, I literally have the original ones that I got still on mine.
Well, and what is the temperature that those O-rings can withstand?
So the question is a little bit more complex than it might seem, because you have to also factor in time. Okay, so that particular elastomer can comfortably handle temperatures in excess of 400 degrees F. Okay, or well above 200 C. Okay, for short periods of time, the temperature they can handle actually goes up quite a bit. Okay, but we're talking short periods of time. So it depends a little bit on how you're using the device. If you're not way overheating things, burning your cookies repeatedly by heating way below the base, etc., not waiting for the cool down click and heating it again and making things glow, you can damage those O-rings. But if you treat your device nice, we've got people that have had devices in near daily use now since we started selling devices with O-rings on them in 2015, 16. And the O-rings are still fine because they're a high quality material that is, I think, is well suited for the job. They're resistant to isopropyl, so you don't even have to take them off when you're cleaning. They handle the temperature really well. Yeah, as long as you are nice to them, and it really helps to just put a little bit of lubricant on your O-rings when you assemble the device, so you don't catch them and rip them and tear them. If you're nice to them, I don't see any reason why these O-rings shouldn't last between 5 and 10 years on average.
And I'm on 5 with mine, I think now. So there's still. I literally just cleaned it last week, I think it was, and I mean I'm a mechanic, so when I look at O-rings, I know I look at them every time when I take them off. I'm like, nope, these are fucking great. Wish Toyota used them.
But But you know, it's these simple little details, right? You know, use the right O-rings, use the right material, and you know the thing that we really strive for when we're designing and engineering a thing, whatever that thing might be, is okay. As we're going through using this product, what could we possibly do to make using this product better, more fun, more interesting, more useful, more ergonomic, you know, more nice to look at. And you know, what one of my favorite components is the digger outer. The,
The cap.
the digger outer, you know, the little bit on the end of the cap.
Yeah, man.
You got to take the cap off to dump it out anyway. Well, you already got this thing between your fingers. How convenient is it that there's a geometry built into the cap that's already right there pointing in the right direction? You just pull it off, stick it in, twist it, and oh, now we're done.
Yeah, and it's the same depth as the oven. So, you know,
Yeah.
you can't go in too deep on it. It's, you know, it's just the right. Yeah,
I
it
show
is a very nice little touch.
It's one of the things when I am showing them how to smoke out of it. Well, I mean, obviously, because you got to clean it out, to load it again while you're showing people. It's literally something I go and look, and look how convenient this is. You don't have to find a fucking paper clip or a safety pin.
No, it's just right there.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I like about. I mean, even one thing that I had mentioned in the past was like if you're smoking if you're smoking some flower that's really resiny, occasionally you can get some pretty good buildup in there. But for the most part, this thing stays amazingly clean. Like,
We should talk about cleaning for a minute.
sure.
Do you make stem milk?
Nope. Please enlighten me.
Okay.
Us.
So, depending on how often you clean, and how often you bake your cookies is going to determine how strong your stem milk is. But in general, we find that most people will make stem milk about once a week. And this entails a pretty simple process of taking off your tip, taking off the cap, popping out the condenser, and making a really hot cup of your favorite hot beverage, whether that's hot chocolate, coffee, or tea. Drop in your tip and your condenser and add a little bit of cream.
What?
And the heat will loosen up all of the effectively condensed hash oil that you've distilled out of your cookies by baking them properly. And the creamer will function as an oil or a fat to help any of those beautiful liberated compounds to change locations from being stuck to your device components to being dispersed within your beverage.
I am. Hey. Oh, that is brilliant. I
I
love
know what I'm
it.
doing this weekend.
Yeah. Okay. So is this something that y'all figured out there at the shop, or is this something that you found out from somebody else?
Well, it's a little bit of both, right? I remember reading about some people doing similar things to clean things out. I remember my neighbor who used to smoke, not bake, but burn. I mean, a lot of weed. And what he would do when his pipe was all gunked up, he would stick it in his sink and just turn on the hot water on like a slow trickle. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not going to work. That's resin. That's sticky. And I just watched. And over the course of like 5 minutes, it was just perfectly clean. I was like, what the hell? No soap, no solvent, literally nothing but hot water. And it's like, okay. So the key really is not only the heat to basically loosen things up, because that's basically what we're doing when we use the product. We're heating up the flour to liberate the oils, the flavonoids, the terpenes, the compounds that we're seeking that's inside. Well, we don't get quite as hot as baking the cookies when we drop it in a cup of hot coffee, but we can get it hot enough that they want to let loose, and then when you throw the creamer in there, the creamer actually functions kind of like a solvent to help everything come into suspension in this beverage. And you just drink it. Everything's already been decarbed. Like I said, it's literally hash oil. And you take your parts out of the bottom of the cup when you're done. Please don't choke on them. And rinse them off under hot water. If you want, you can use alcohol, but the reality is you don't need to.
Wow. I'm literally like, my jaw is like seriously on the floor. I fucking love this. I think that's brilliant. And it's funny, the pipe with the hot water in the sink was literally how I used to do it back in the day because I didn't have alcohol, right? Like I just didn't
Right.
have alcohol in the house. And, especially like when I was in junior high school, it's like I'm already, saving my money for the next bag of flour, let alone, going out to
Buy
drop it
alcohol. Yeah.
$2 alcohol. But I used to do that because that was, just the way my mind thought. I was like, well, hot, get it hot and let it flow. And I used to remember that I would watch it. I would just put it in the sink in the right spot and like pour that water in there, and I would watch it coming out the back end, and eventually it would just. So this is level.
It's another fun thing about the product that talk about getting maximum mileage,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's kind of the really cool thing about consuming flour in whatever form, shape that you do, but there's always byproducts that are usable again, and it's people find these creative ways to use it all, right? And I mean, here we just heard about that one, and of course, iteration and Illumixis are probably down there going, "Yeah, you don't do that, bits." Like, dude, spoke that up for 5 years and you haven't
Man,
done
I
that.
just barely learned that you can put it in a bong. Right, I'm behind the times.
Yeah.
I got to know this stuff.
The bong, I literally haven't tried the bong because when I bought my first one, I had bought this cool package that they had on sale, which it came with all kinds of stuff. And I literally haven't opened the package up in like 5 years. But then I was like, we were doing the show in April, and I was like, no, I think I have one of those tips that goes into a bong. But then I do remember when I bought it specifically because it had that tip in there. And my bong smashed like literally 2 days after I bought it, so I never got a chance to use it. But I forgot about it.
Oh man, really?
So I need to go buy a new bong.
There's
Five.
the really neat ones out there these days, and some of them are just shockingly cheap.
Yeah, you're right. And
I know that. So one of the things that we wanted to do early on is we knew there was people that liked using water tools. So we wanted to engineer a device that really liked being used with water tools. And that's where the Vong came into being, Vong, VONG is a name we came up with to kind of refer to, VAP cap on glass. Because it was kind of engineered to fit with glass with a 14 millimeter taper built right into it. So you didn't need an adapter. I think it's really nice using these products through a water tool occasionally. And the thing that I like to recommend to try out, if you haven't done this before, the little mini bubblers are particularly nice. And I think the best way to use them, if you're going for maximum flavor, is you take about a teaspoon of water at the most, and you pour it in there, and then you shake it up, so you end up with like tiny little water droplets all over the inside. but no actual liquid water sitting inside. Just little tiny droplets all over the inside. That's all you want to do. You want to coat it just enough to get tiny little droplets dispersed on the inside surface of the water tool. And what this will do is this will create effectively 100% humidity environment. And since you don't have liquid water that all of your vapor is percolating through, you don't lose all the tasty, flavorful components of your vapor going through the water and dissolving into solution. They just pass right through, and the warm vapor picks up some of the humidity along the way.
I hope you're all taking notes on this, kids.
Yeah, that's some real tips and tricks right there.
Right? Tips, tricks. I was just pulling up the Vong because I was like, I don't remember what the Vong looks like, but I was just pulling it up here to have a little look at it. I see it now. Get it. All right. Get that humidity in there. Fucking tips and tricks. And the beautiful thing about this, folks, is it is recorded, so you can go back and listen again if you want tips. But
I'm gonna put that tea recipe right there on the front page of the webpage.
There you go. Do that for sure.
So I'm gonna clip that out. It'll be right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mech's been up there long enough. Sorry, Mech.
Mech's going down. So I mean, you've been sharing tips, tricks, and how you're coming up with stuff. So with your advancements, do you guys have a whole bunch of things that are just waiting in check to come out, or are every time something comes out, are you going, Kate, how do we progress this, or is their team always or a few of you always wanting to progress it? What's
it's all of that, right? I've got a whole list of things that I want to make. We have a few things that are done that we're waiting for the right time, but most of those things they're generally not big things, right? They're okay, like for this fall. In the fall, we tend to release some colored products. We've been releasing some variation of like a colored M pretty much every fall since 2018. Okay. So it's not going to be super exciting. It's not going to be revolutionary for most people that have been part of our community for a while. But if you're just joining, it's the time of year when we offer some products in different colors. Which, does it really affect the way they work? No. Does it change the way they look? Yep. And it's kind of that simple. But then there's bigger things like in 2021, we decided to kind of revitalize our whole product line, and we busted our butts and re-engineered not just a new M, but a new Omni and a new Vaughn, and released all of them at the same time, which I thought was going to be really cool, but it was kind of a mistake. Because a lot of reasons. I think they're good products, but we ended up maybe pushing the envelope a little bit further than we should have in too tight a time frame. And it
was not received well, or
there was some things that could have been a little bit further refined. And on top of that, what I didn't really understand and or didn't want to believe at the time was that the community of people that really appreciate these types of products is not near as big as what it might seem. And what I mean by that is, when you're talking about a product like the Omni or the Vong, this is a premium titanium device. I mean, compared to some of the electronic ones that are out there that are 400 plus, it's economical. But compared to the vast majority of what people buy for consuming their flower, it's expensive.
I mean, most people are, at least that I know, use a $10, $15 glass pipe.
Yeah.
Like that's as far as they ever get.
Yep.
If they unless they're a bong person, then they've got $50, $100 bong. But
Sure.
other than that, yeah, they don't. You know, I don't know. Weed people aren't the most gadgety to me.
No, not really. And so when you're offering kind of a niche product to a niche industry, and again, I'm going to really pick on the Omni and the Vong here, at 150 and $200 price points, which is about what they were selling for in 2021. Well, yeah, these people have to choose. Most people aren't going to buy both of them or all three. They're going to buy one. They're going to buy a new M, maybe buy an Omni, maybe buy a Vong. And by trying to rush and re-engineer all three of them at the same time, it actually wasn't great for us or a lot of the customers because they couldn't buy all three at the same time anyway. And I think we've been better off to release the M when they normally did in March. Follow up maybe later that summer with an Omni or a Vong, and maybe towards the end of the year, beginning of the following year, here's another new one. But these are the things that I think I know I've learned along the way, and I think as a company we've learned as well that there's a balance for what to do and how to do it.
And it's great for you to say that kind of thing too, because I mean you've definitely shown over this conversation about what's happening with your product and how people you want them to have a good experience with your product. So
yeah, it's one of the most important things to me.
And it's funny, you think, I guess money is the other thing. I was going to say, you think that most companies would get that, but they don't. It's the money that, blinds them and getting it out. Let's get the cash out of their pockets.
Yeah, it distracts them from doing what they know they should do, and they end up paying for it. And please don't take that like I'm saying I don't make mistakes. I certainly do. But when this adventure really started for me, which it was effectively just the next thing that I was trying in my life, because I've been trying to figure out, okay, how can I, as a person that likes to make things, find a way that I can gain access to some really cool tools so I can make some more cool things. Because I didn't have much money. I didn't have access to tools, didn't have access to materials or shops or labs or just cool things. And I was struggling that I tried real hard to get anyone to hire me to do those cool things, in a shop or a lab. So when I finally hit on something that, people are willing to buy this thing, okay, that gives me a source of revenue. Cool. Which means I can buy machines so I can make more cool things. That's the number one goal, is the access to the ability to make the things that come to mind.
Yeah, we all. I'm sure there's a lot of us in here that would love to have that, and we strive for that.
And is that not an artist mentality, right? We want to create. We're driven to create. Why? Don't ask me that. I just do.
That's facts. You sound just like any other artist, and we go back to yes, we can call you an artist. 100%.
Something I've been wanting to ask since I don't know, months now, is like what is your or was your background before all of this? Like do you have an engineering background or anything, or like were you just a weed smoking MacGyver?
Well, it depends on how you want to describe it, right? I like to say that I graduated from Lego University when I was 6. Uh, it from early on, I just like to make things. I like to take things apart and carefully, because it was way less satisfying to take something apart and fail to successfully reassemble it to the same level of functionality. than it was to do exactly that. Take it
Right.
apart, see what's going on inside, understand it. Now put it back together and make it work again. And that taught me a lot about how things work and why and process, etc. And so, not that I haven't done other things, but the vast majority of my background comes from doing. Certainly, I've learned a bit from reading books and watching videos and studying. But it's just the act of doing, right? You start thinking about doing a thing. Well, that's great, but the learning doesn't happen until you start doing it.
Yeah.
Just here again, I want to make another analogy to an artist, right? An artist doesn't just pick up a paintbrush one day for the first time and paint beautiful things. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. You might understand what you need to do. You might even understand, how to stroke the brush and how to dip it in the paint. But the process, the methodology, the biomechanics of how you hold things and apply them across the surface. That's not something that's terribly intuitive until you do it, until you start to develop the familiarity through these associations. So, yeah, I'd say the summarized best answer I can give to your question is my background is doing.
Okay.
My mother would have loved that soundbite about you talking about taking things apart, but then carefully enough so you could put it back together, because I was that way always. I was, I love playing with like little toy cars, dinky cars, and I never had GI Joes or anything. I don't think I was an action figure. Well, yeah, I did have some action figures, but electronics. I always wanted electronics. I was a stereo player or some weird thing from Radio Shack back in the day or whatever.
And
And
Radio Shack was so awesome.
right?
Oh,
I especially dug it when I figured out you could buy. There was a period of time when in the late '80s when they would sell kits to build things.
yeah.
They were just in plain plastic bags, and they would have like
Yep.
a copied sheet in them, and you needed a soldering iron to build like a little flashing LED thing or a
Yep.
light.
You had the circuit board with all the parts.
Yep.
You need a soldering iron and maybe some solder, and you had to be able to read.
Yeah. I don't even know if reading was really that much of it, because it was pretty much just a schematic.
Right. What a useful skill to learn there too, right? And you learn it by doing.
Yep. But my mother used to always be terrible. Like I remember initially, well, I don't recall it off the top of my head, but she says it all the time because they'd freak out because they would always buy me, like, I would get one gift at Christmas because I would always want something so absurd, and we didn't have a ton of money back then, so it was like, you got one thing, you're not even getting socks. And then and then my mother told me later on in the year she'd freak out because I'd be taking it apart, but she's like, every time it would be back together and working just like it was. And I always felt the need for that too. You got to take things out. I like to know how stuff works, right? And then that's how you.
But we can be respectful through our exploration. It doesn't have to be destructive, unless it's an Apple product.
True.
And I only mean to be slightly facetious here, but the reality is when the new Apple product comes out, people are going to break them so they can understand, okay, how is this put together? Because I want to compliment some of the Apple engineers in terms of some of the assembly methodology that they've engineered to put these things together, with no visible fasteners. That's actually brilliant, right? And
well, they also don't have any limitations though, as far as manufacturing and a lot of things like that, right? Or cost to a degree.
no,
Right? Like a lot of those limitations are not existent for them, like they would be for many other companies.
well, I'm going to somewhat disagree because I don't think I can even begin to compare our
Well,
little
I'm thinking,
company with.
I'm just thinking more about along the terms of like soldering on memory and soldering on hard drives. You know, where
Sure.
other computer manufacturers won't do that because they need that modularity. But Apple just is at a point where they're like, fuck
But
you. We'll do what we
but
want. We're gonna
but,
solder it on.
but I'm going to challenge you on that. Do they need it, or is it just that they suffer from the same affliction that most of us as people suffer from? And that's, oh, that means we'd have to do things differently. That's going to require changes. That's going to mean we have to change things. We have to create a new process. I mean, you think about a company like Hewlett Packard. Come on, they can afford to do exactly that. In fact, what ends up happening, if we look at things historically, is you'll see the companies that ask the question, right? Not should we do this, but could we do this? And then they go and explore, and sometimes they're audacious enough. Again, use another fun example from Apple. Instead of stamping our metal laptop cases, because we can't quite get the geometry to mount all our components just right, and they bend really easy because we got to use a really soft annealed metal in order to stamp it into the right shape without wrinkling it. Why don't we just mill the whole thing out of a solid block of aluminum? Oh, that'd be cost prohibitive. But what if we find the best, most economical CNC machines that are built specific to what our needs are so that they can run these things around the clock, and one person can literally operate 30 machines?
Well, and that's where I say that they can do things. They have
They
they
can.
have they have
But,
the ability of scale in that regard
well,
to
they
be
do
able to make
now,
that more cost
but it
effective.
wasn't always that way.
Oh,
And
absolutely. No, it absolutely wasn't always that way. You're
but
right.
so what I'm kind of getting at is, what did the initial exploration into some of these innovations cost? And the answer is likely not more than a few $1 million for a significant exploration, right? Just to prove the concept. And you think about most of these publicly traded companies, throw $1 million on a project is no big deal. It happens all the time. And then I can, echo this whole concept and try and bring it back into this conversation, because I think a big part of what has helped us as a company kind of start the process of making a mark and influence how some things are being done is the same question. Could we do that, right? In terms of designing the product, choosing the way we use the materials. And when we were able to finally buy our first CNC machine, and then a little while later buy our second CNC machine, a much more capable one that all of a sudden we could machine the same part from both sides and access it from all kinds of different angles and various different cutting tools. And okay, now we got this new capability. Where's the limit? That's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
No
Good point.
limits.
Good point. No limits.
And I think it's these limit pushers in our world, which I think when we look carefully, we're going to find that the limit pushers, in some regards, if not many regards, at their core, they're artists. Okay, they're taking the tools that are available to them today and asking that question: could I do that? Would that work? I wonder if we took this process that's never been used ever for any consumer product and combined it with this other material that most people have never even heard of and is way too expensive to make a commercially viable product. But maybe we could refine the supply chain or buy enough of it that it would make sense to actually get the price where it made sense. And now all of a sudden, the world has something that no one's ever thought of and could not have existed otherwise, which then establishes a whole new precedent that other businesses that operate in a similar sector have to respond to. And so when we look at in the electronics sector and we see the things that the innovative companies do, And then we turn the clock, fast forward a few years from any point in time, in our history, we can analyze it. What do we see? We see the other companies that are still around do their best to emulate the innovation.
Yeah, or fall by the wayside like BlackBerry and Nokia.
Beautiful example, right? Innovate or die.
Put that on coffee mug.
I'm still trying to get over skate or die. I'm almost dead.
Yeah, that's some mind expanding thoughts. Not skate or die, Willie. I was talking to George there. What's your favorite innovation, if you could pick one that you guys have come up with as far as the DynaVap goes?
As far as everything DynaVap is concerned, it's if we want to encompass everything, I think the most impactful thing that's come out of this whole adventure, I think, is the modular connectivity of our components. Where you don't need any tools, you just simply push them together or pull them apart. Mm-hmm. And that allows people to mix and match, and a huge ability to customize specifically to how you feel that at that moment.
So how do you feel about like some of like there being other companies out there that like make stems and stuff that are all compatible? Like, do you encourage that? Are you for it?
I absolutely encourage it. There was a brief moment when I saw the first maker doing that, where I was like, wait a minute, you're copying my product. But then I thought about it. I was like, no, he's not. He's making something really cool that I wasn't going to make, likely. I could have, but I didn't think of it. And he's putting his specific twist on it. I'm saying he because the first person did it was a male. How is this hurting me? And so after going through the thought process, I came to what seemed to be a very logical conclusion that not only am I not going to do anything about it from the negative or slowing it down or trying to stop it perspective, no, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to encourage it. And I made it kind of a habit, especially in the earlier years when I would see a new maker enter the space, to reach out to them and connect with them and offer them some parts or do other various things to encourage them to do what they were doing and make it a little bit easier. If anything, give them a little bit of guidance, because they're adding to the collective pool, giving people more options to make the experience what they're looking for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of, I wasn't going to ask the question because I thought you had kind of answered it when you first started talking about working with the original guy who was making the wood stems. But I'm glad I did, because that was a much more in-depth answer than, you kind of touched on earlier. And I was thinking about, after we were talking about Apple just a minute ago, how like the cell phone accessory market is like $100 billion industry on just accessories, cases, and
it's crazy.
All the rest of that shit.
Yes.
The sub industry that was created off of smartphones, and even it was a small industry before that with the old Nokia 5600s and whatnot. But once the iPhones came around and the smartphone market blew up, that accessory market just went wild.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And I guess that way too, with you encouraging others who want to make accessories that work with your product, it just makes sense, because then you're also ensuring by reaching out or by encouraging it and being okay with it, you're also ensuring that people are still having a great smoking experience with your product as well.
Well, and so which gets me to, I think, something that's kind of important to touch on, because I think it's relevant to the conversation, and that's the mission, right? I don't know if you've seen it. We try to publicize it. Don't want to push it too hard because we don't want it to get annoying, but our company mission is actually really simple. It's make smoking history. Uh, and that doesn't mean uh, exclusively, right? We want to do our part to contribute to people and civilization in general in such a way that helps people live a healthier way.
It's a definitely a far healthier product
Well,
for sure.
because and that's what motivated me in the very beginning to create the product was
Oh, we lost you again, George.
to as many people as possible. This might be not only a way for me to actually make a living and gain access to really cool tools to make really cool things, but it might be a way to make a contribution to society in general and help many, many people all over the world live a healthier life with a simple little product that allows them to bake their cookies instead of burning them.
Man, I'm so going to use bacon cookies and baking from now on. That's going to be my terminology. I just love it. Something I can talk to my grandma about.
Yeah. Bacon cookies. So one of the accessories that I saw, I think I just barely saw it today. It was either today or yesterday. Was a double-headed adapter, so you can put two ovens on a single stem. And someone's like, "Well, how
Did
do
I
you heat that?"
lose you guys?
I thought that was pretty wild.
Well, you'd have to have two people working at it, Willie. You'd have to have two lighters.
Well, apparently it fits in the wand. Both
Oh,
heads fit in the wand perfectly.
Oh,
yeah. I think it's good that things fit in the wand, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I should really get one of those. I've thought of, I've thought about it for a long time.
Bitch, is that
Um,
bitch? Is that echo coming from you? Is that echo coming from you?
no, I think that's George.
It might be coming from me. Sorry about that, guys.
He's probably on his one wheel with the Bluetooth hooked up, and
No.
right. Um,
Let me see if I can reroute things.
rerouting. Take a little time here, folks, once again to give you a little bit of a room reset. You're listening to the Night Train broadcast. Our guest tonight is George Breiwa. I think I said it right there. Hopefully, he's the one of the creators of the DynaVap. Definitely the brains behind it, the guy that got it going. I'd like to thank you all for coming in tonight. I see a whole bunch of DynaVap users down there. I see a whole bunch of weed smokers down there as well. So it's good that you're all in here. Hopefully, if you don't own a DynaVap by the end of this, you might want to consider maybe, jumping into one because they're fantastic. And I mean, they last. They're durable. They're good for you. You're not burning that. You're not burning that weed. You're doing the vaporization.
And I mean, we started off talking about. I mean, we've been talking a lot about like the Omni and the M's. Some of the higher end products, but they have entry. You have entry level like the B's at like $29, right? That they start at something like that. So I mean, there's definitely enough product range for all budgets.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed if you go on their website there's a 10. You put your email in, you can get 10% off of an order. It's right there. Yeah, these little bees are cool. I forgot about these. I've just brought them up on my screen right now. See if I can share them up on the screen. They're dope. They're colorful, cute little guys. Yeah, I mean, like that's $39 USD right there. and they're well worth it. They're very durable. You're not you can drop these things, and they're not going to smash or break. The flavor, I mean, that's the biggest thing about these. That's the 100%. The non-combustion is, probably tied. Is not combusting, and the flavor. The flavor thing is the most amazing thing. I'll tell you what, I'll buy your DynaVap off of you if you don't like the flavor that you get off the very first hit that you take the DynaVap off.
Well, I mean, apparently, a lot of people will. You can, according to George, there's a retail market for almost 100% of what you pay for it used.
Right? Yeah, no, they're an amazing product. The flavor is a big thing. I mean, for me, it was too that, I've said this on the show before in the past about when we were talking about, when I got interested in drinking wine, and the big thing to me was when I discovered flavors and all that sort of stuff, and how to bring it out of the wine, which also translated into beer and whiskey, and it just boiled down. It came into my weed as well. I mean, like George said earlier, when somebody opens a jar and you smell that smell, you want to taste that smell, right? And when you do combustion, it definitely changes it a lot, for sure. And never mind that combustion's hard on the lungs. That's actually another big thing for me when I'm smoking joints. Actually, this past weekend, when we were hanging out in Fendel's yard there, Paul, who is a ghost, came out and just like dumped a whole big bag of pre-rolls on the table. And I remember the next morning I was talking funny because it had been a long, long time since I had smoked that many left-handed cigarettes. And the next morning I was like, oh man, what's wrong with my voice? Then I was like, oh yeah, I was sitting at the sitting at the old picnic table out there, smoking all the old bottom shelf joints, or I can't remember what Paul called them, but it was a good selection. It was an absolute good selection, but I wished I had my DynaVap.
If I know Paul, they were at least mid-shelf.
I don't know that they were. I don't know, but I don't know what
Grab bags.
I don't know what your stuff sells for down there, honestly. Like, other than when I went to Miami and I nearly freaking choked on my spit when I got the total. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's because you were at a festival in a county that weed wasn't even legal, and you were already hammered.
Yeah, that happens. He probably
3 days later, find out, oh, that's only CBD.
Whatever. It was probably for the better. That
Whatever.
helped me party. It was a good night. That was a good night. I was just wondering, I don't know if George has got his audio sorted out or not, but I was also thinking we could probably get to the point here where if anybody down there has some questions that they'd like to ask George about DynaVaps, their use, or throw some flowers to him or what have you, it might be a good time for that. So if anybody would like to come up and drop a question to George, now would be a really good time to do that. Or myself or Willie, it don't matter. I love my DynaVap. I just did a click right now.
I'm about to. I think I'm at that point. I'm ready to. I've got I found my bong, pulled my bong out, and I have an adapter, so it fits in there. So I'm just gonna do what George said earlier, sprinkle a little water in there.
Oh, you're making.
We're gonna try it out.
You're gonna make the best out of that one. I wish there was video. I wish you had video, Willie.
I can't do that.
All right.
I have a real job that I can't do that way.
Yeah, well, you don't have to show us your face.
Not that I tell them.
Somebody will be looking at
handle it all anyway.
Somebody will be looking at your hands and going, "Hey, aren't those Willie's hands?" I'm sure those are his lips.
The only like real burning question I have left for George is, like what are we looking at in the future as far as like kind of artist collaborations like they did with the wood burning guy or the wood electro.
Oh yeah,
the electrolysis guy.
So Rowan is the artist there. That guy's awesome. So actually, he came down for a visit here just like a week and a half ago. And we were talking about what what the next thing is going to be. So it's in the works. We're going to do more stuff with him. Going to do more stuff with other artists too. We're working on a deal with another company that does glass. Make some cool stuff. So more glass stuff coming. And we're on the look for other artists that want to do collaborations, because it's really fun to work with other artists and make other cool things, because now all of a sudden you get their perspective plus your perspective, and when you put the two things together, well, you end up with new things that didn't exist before, and things that basically nobody or neither party would have come up with likely on their own, and that's just a beautiful thing.
It's definitely good to get the minds together to see. I mean, not one person has all the ideas in the world, right? Or sometimes they just don't look through the glass the same way.
No, not at all. But that's part of the fun of the collaboration.
Absolutely. Willie, I heard you choking a little bit there. How's it going, bud? Oh, he muted himself. He's probably coughing.
I had to mute, man. I haven't had a drink or a smoke in like a month and a half.
Oh, you're
Sorry, I've had one beer in like a month and a half. That's it.
This is going to send you to the moon. Did you
might be a while before I get to it again. So
did you hit the tip for a tasty rip, or did you heat the base to get to space, or did you go below the base to melt your face?
I think with the induction, it's kind of right in the middle.
Oh, that's right. You're doing the induction. I forget that all the time. That's probably the biggest mistake I made, is I should have just bought the induction right off the bat. But I didn't. Then
I think the induction is such a nice way for control and consistency if you don't really want to pay that close attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have the patience to pay that much attention. I set it on my workbench, and then I come back when it clicks.
Yeah. Does it still the inductions take relatively the same amount of time, about 20 seconds? Or are they quick?
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, cool. No, I should probably get on that. Maybe I should do just an order anyways. I mean, I'm overdue. I got to get on the wagon. I should have myself another DynaVap, possibly in another color.
It'll change your experience. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the induction heaters are particularly nice when you're outside, because you don't have any wind to deal with.
Yeah.
And the wand, especially with the adapter, is really fun in that you can just hold the thing up, and you can actually draw on it while it's heating. So, and you just kind of, if you have it in manual mode, you can just push the button while you're drawing on it. Even after it's clicked, you let off, and then you just put your finger on the thumb on the throttle, give it a little bit more gas if you want a little bit more flavor, and you can just kind of sip and go until you feel like you've got enough.
All right. It's just so convenient that I'm on the website right now too. I was also looking, folks,
So anyway, just another way to think about wand usage.
Yeah.
So
should get one.
It turns the DynaVap into more like an on-demand battery style vaporizer. It's about the same form factor, but when the battery dies, you can still use a lighter, which I think is pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. It's not like you're totally just sitting there going, damn it. Like with my old battery operated vape that I used to have. I mean, when the battery died, that was it. You had to plug it in and wait before it, wait for it to charge to use it again. So very good point.
Did I lose you, Bits?
No. Maybe. Did you? Can't hear me, Willie?
Maybe.
No, he's still talking. Can you hear either of us?
I can hear you, Willie, but
You lost Bits.
Well, it's probably for the
I did.
Probably for the better he can't hear me.
Huh. That's kind of interesting.
Well, Willie, you run it. You take it. You run with this.
All right. Well, anything else you guys want to go over tonight?
Did anybody else have any questions or
He can't hear me, so
bits?
I no, I think I was pretty good on my questions. I think if George's got stuff to do, we can definitely let him go. I mean, I think
I swear, hear crickets.
Oh yeah, that's in the that's in the back of mine.
well, no, it's probably he can't hear me, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can't hear bits.
Yeah,
So
Willie, you should just deal with our guest. It sucks for me to talk and he can't.
No, it even maybe I bumped him. No,
no.
because on my screen it shows that his audio is muted.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's,
But
Okay.
I think we've had if nobody else has too much to ask, and I think we've had a great conversation tonight, and
Yes, it's
really
been
enjoyed having you on.
really fun. I appreciate your time, and we'll keep in touch. I think there'll be a few more fun things to talk about as this adventure continues.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean we love to know the new stuff that's coming up and new
Yeah,
releases and stuff like
yeah,
that. So yeah, definitely
yeah,
let's
and
stay in touch.
if you guys ever find yourself in the Wisconsin area, let us know. Give us a little bit of notice. I'd love to give you a tour, show you around.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
B came. I don't know if he has a question.
no,
All right,
sorry,
B, do you
George.
have a question?
I just wanted to tell you that if you return the co-host and become just a speaker, he might be able to hear you again. Or if not, just jump as a listener and then jump back, and he will listen you. It happens to me all the time. I change
Oh, okay.
connections and I lose people.
So I just leave and then come back.
Yeah,
No,
and then
I was saying that
we'll
Bits could do it. Any of you that do it, it should fix it.
Okay.
All right, maybe I'll do it. Let me give a sec.
okay. Bits is gonna do it. He's gonna leave here, come back, and we'll see what else he's got to say for us. Yeah, gotta figure out a way to get out there to Wisconsin now.
And I don't have one, but I for sure got kind of convinced to get one of those things. So I'll get one soon.
Well, I'll pop off here and come back, see if we can get that connection.
Okay. There's Bits coming back up.
All right, can you hear me now,
I can still hear you.
George? Nope.
George dropped so that he could try to reconnect.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I was surprised you didn't. I was surprised that you didn't suggest that. But you just had your first hoot in a month and a half, so I can't blame you. But thank you, B.
Thanks.
Appreciate you coming up for that, laying that down. George's request. Speaker.
Well, maybe you can hear me now.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, so we're back. Cool.
This is total Twitter space shit. This happens all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, hey, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys because I really appreciate the chat. And if there's anything else you want to touch on, we can do that quick. But I think it'd be good to kind of wrap up as well. And hopefully we can connect again sometime in the future.
Yeah, for sure. No, we definitely, you have been wonderful. You've really cleared up a lot of stuff for us, and we were very excited to have you on. It's kind of, a little bit of a rock star in our eyes. I'm not going to lie. And I'm sure a few people down here that use the product will agree. You've done a great thing. And yeah, we totally thank you very much for giving us your time tonight. We know everybody has lives and we heard you would be very excited to talk about the DynaVap and stuff, and you definitely were, and we appreciate that very much.
It's a passion project of mine.
Yeah, wonderful, and you're definitely one of the greats in the space. Like you just listening to your passion and how much you care about the product and what people think of it and how they use it. Like it really speaks levels. We don't hear enough of that from any companies really at all. these days. If there's anything we can ever do for you, if there's some way that you can use our platform in some way, shape, or form, please feel free to reach out. Hit us up for anything you want, even if you just want to pop in and say hi.
Well, that sounds really good. I'll see if I can bookmark your space here now that I know the general time frame, and we'll just kind of go from there. I see more opportunities for us to connect over various things in the future.
Cool. Well, I hope so, because we're going to keep connecting with you through using your products. That's for sure, and preaching the gospel of the DynaVap.
All right.
Because Willie and I, we it's the one thing on this space. If something sucks, we're going to say it sucks, and if we believe in something, we definitely talk about it and we push it, because that's just the way we are. We're very honest people about that kind of thing. So, and there's probably nothing bad I have ever said about a DynaVap, except for the fact of I put it in my mouth once the wrong way twice, but that's not the DynaVap's fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, they call that kissing the dragon in the community.
I've done it. I've so done it. But that's when you should probably put it down. You might be a little bit done. Take.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna chat for a little bit and close out the next 15 minutes. And you're welcome to hang out and listen if you want. Yeah.
Okay.
Take off. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Bits. Thank you, Willie. It was super fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for making such a great product. And I'm sure there's people down here right now enjoying it while listening.
I hope so.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeehaw.